Hello there, this is John V, Software Evangelist at Jscape, and you're watching a Jscape MFT server tutorial. In one of our past videos, we taught you how to set up your MFT server to automatically delete old files, and in another video, how to zip them. This time we're going to teach you how to configure your MFT server to generate a list of old files and then automatically email that list to you. Let me explain what we're trying to do. This task can actually be broken down into three parts. 1. Scanning a directory and its subdirectories for old files. 2. Listing down the paths of those files into one file. And 3. Emailing that list to you. This is how we're going to achieve all that on Jscape MFT server. First, we'll create a directory monitor that would scan a directory and its underlying subdirectories for aged files. Second, we'll create a trigger that would activate the directory monitor at some specified time. Third, we'll create a second trigger that would generate a list of old files that are found. And fourth, we'll create one more trigger that would email that list to you. Steps 1 and 2 have already been covered in the video how to configure your server to find and delete old files, so I suggest you watch that video first. If you're done watching that video, then we can proceed with step 3. Let's now talk about how we can generate that list of old files. Create a new trigger and give that trigger a name. For example, list old files. Expand the event type drop-down list and then select directory monitor file aged. This will enable this trigger to listen to the directory monitor file aged event, which will cause this trigger to fire each time an aged file is found. Click Next to proceed. Normally, when the server scans for old files, it would include both files and subdirectories in its search results. If you don't want to include directories in your list, just enter the expression isDirectory equals false. Now, in case you have 2 or more directory monitors that raise the directory monitor file aged event, you should add an expression that would limit this trigger's response to the right event. To do that, just specify the directory monitor name. So the complete expression would be isDirectory equals false and monitor name equals year old files, wherein year old files is the name of the directory monitor we created in the video how to configure your server to find and delete old files. If another directory monitor happens to raise the directory monitor file aged event, this trigger wouldn't act on it. For a complete list of variables supported by this particular trigger, just click the Variables button. Click Next to proceed. We're now ready to add a trigger action that would append each search result, basically consisting of a complete file path, into your list. Click the Add button to create a new trigger action. You would need the append file trigger action for this purpose, so select that action and then click OK. The next step would be to specify the file that would hold the list. For this example, we have named our file oldfiles.txt. You can use the Browse button and then navigate to your desired file. Once you've selected the file, enter the file variable into the message box. For this particular trigger, the file variable would hold the path of each old file found. Click OK to proceed. To clarify, each time the server finds an old file in the directory monitor, it will do the following. Raise the directory monitor file aged event. That event will in turn cause the server to store the old file paths into the file variable and cause this trigger to fire. Next, the server will compare the directory monitor's name with the one specified in the trigger's condition expression. And finally, if the directory monitor's name matches the one specified in the trigger condition's expression, in this case, year old files, it will execute the append file trigger action. Upon execution, the append file trigger action will append the path currently stored in the file variable into the designated file, that is, oldfiles.txt. This process will then repeat for every old file found. And that's how the list is generated. Now that you've created a trigger for generating your list, the last step would be to create a trigger for sending that list in an email. Create a new trigger and give that trigger a name. Example, email list of old files. Expand the event type drop-down list and select current time. Click Next to proceed. For this example, we would like this trigger to fire an hour after the scan. That should give the server ample time to look for old files in the monitored directory. Since the scan is scheduled to run at 9:30 p.m., we'll let the email sending take place at 10:30 p.m. To do that, we simply enter the expression hour equals 22 and minute equals 30. Click Next to proceed. Add a new trigger action and select the send email trigger action. Enter all pertinent information for the email into their respective fields. Don't forget to attach the file containing the list of old files. Click OK till you're back at the main screen. That's it! Your MFT server would then be ready to scan for old files at the predefined schedule, list old files that are found, and then finally email that list to you.